Well, thank you so much for staying on. And we're back from the break. We will just take the MCR case study. It's a critical moment, actually a stage play. And I will just narrate what I can remember from the stage play. It was actually presented by a drama group in a church where I attended. Well, if you're not offended, it's not really about church issues. We just want to see how we can investigate the stage play critical moment, and then probably later on we are going to be discussing why it was presented in the church. We may not even be concerned about that. Our interest is simply to look out for the four components of reality, or the four components of lifestyle or life, four components of the mind, as I've stated, are the four components of the community. So that's just what we will try to achieve in this MCR investigation 1 and then MCR investigation 2. And then actually MCR investigation 1 is going to be more like theory, where I teach us what we do, and then MCR investigation 2 is going to be the practical. The practice. So, well, the story is about Mr. and Mrs. Sunday. It centers around them. The stage play center really around them. We will be seeing the landlord later on in the stage play. But Mr. Sunday and his wife, Miss Sunday, they're actually having a hard time financially. Mr. Sunday is having trouble in his place of work. We should see that. And at home, he's not able to meet all the needs. So the wife came this morning. The stage play started with that part, where the wife came in and then tried to make him see that they actually drain, at home. No food stuff, no money for school fees, and their rent is really overdue. The wife was really, nagging, talking to the husband in a very more annoying part, and she reminded him that the other family around are living comfortable, and Mr. Sunday is just carrying on with his religious activities and fantasies, and it wasn't really a way a wife should encourage her husband. Well, Mr. Sunday merely said, well, he believed God is going to provide, and all of this need to be met soon. So he left home to face the business world of uncertainty. Now, when he got to his place of work that day, the boss, his boss, a dickness actually have been on him. She wanted to be flirting around with him. And Mr. Sunday say he's a Christian and he's married, that he won't allow that. They can say no, then he's not ready for the benefit that will come with it. She promised that if he will accept her offer or proposal, she's going to change his financial situation, and she'll lament how she's aware they're struggling at home. We were alarmed. I watch around, and most of the audience were around and alarmed and said, how did the boss get to know about that? But when Mr. Sunday left the office, a private investigator came in and was trying to brief his boss about more funding. So, well, obviously we now understood how Mr. Sunday's boss get to know more about the struggle Mr. Sunday is faced with at home. And he promised to get more for the boss. And the stage faded out, and then we were shown Mr. Sunday at home. One of these days he sat there in a sitting room and was really trying to enjoy himself. Or what do we say enjoy? He was trying to take a sip of gari, in the water, and only for his his landlord, to walk in halfway with praise and halfway with mockery to really tell him that Mr. Sunday has not been a good tenant, and that he is beginning to think of giving out his house. In fact, somebody has come to pay for the whole house, so Mr. Sunday should start looking for another accommodation. He began to mock Mr. Sunday as feeling his experience and useful, but even though that he's smart and intelligent, but he's not been able to provide money for the rent, so he should really think of quitting and leaving the apartment so that someone can take over. The landlord wasn't really understanding. Well, the landlord left, and only for the wife to come on stage and then began to make Mr. Sunday feel really bad about him. I think that's where she will tell him about his overcommitment to religious activity, and that other family are really doing well, and here they are having trouble at home. She left with what he was drinking, collected the Gary he was taking, and picked the remaining and said he doesn't really deserve it, and she walked out of him. Mr. Sunday really became fed up with all of this, and then in a while, we saw him went into a flash. He went through what he's going through at home with his wife, his landlord, and the proposal from his boss, and then he kept going through every of those incidents. He was carried away. Not until his friend showed up, it was really a startling experience. He was carried away. But when the friend really got his attention, and they start talking about the incident, that I think I'm going to, conceive and then go with his boss. And that is really better than this trouble he's going through at home and in the place of work. From what they started to discuss with his friend, we became aware that Mr. Sunday must have been confiding in his friend. So, the friend made him to realize that from some scripture he quoted, that what are the desires really lurking around you? He made him realize really that he is going through this trial because of the desires he's having in him. And they are going to lead him into temptations, and temptations are going to lead him into death. And Mr. Sunday, became attentive, and so this got talking, and the stage went off. And while we were wondering, another story came in. It's a story of a church in a village. We merely saw a royal guard, all there. We saw all there, and then they all there, appear at the front of the church, and he was trying to get anyone who will accept that he is a child of God or is a Christian. He was screaming and saying God has offended him, and anybody who accepts that he's a child of God, he's going to take vengeance on that person. So we saw church members, we saw certain elders came up, and then they were actually debating on what they would do when the church board convene, how they're going to really let their interest be known, But when they got to the church entrance, they saw all there, the royal guard, and they deny that they are Christians or any child of God, and they left decisively. We saw some women too came, and they played the same trick and left. choir members came, talking about what they will do in the choir, and then but when they get to Allah, they decide to leave his presence decisively, and then we saw a brother and a pastor. They were walking along, and when they got to Allah, the pastor was actually encouraging the brother to trust in God, to have faith in God, that God never failed, and the likes. And the brother was attentive, but when they got to all of the pastor bluntly denied that he's a Christian or willing to take any punishment for anybody, that Christ have taken punishment, and this is a call that if it's not convenient, this is just a church. He said that he will look for another church, and he left, as I remember. But the brother insists that he is a child of God and that he's not going to fail God at this moment. The pastor encouraged him to leave, but the brother said no, he's staying. Now, although having convinced himself that he has gotten who he's looking for, decided to not go along with the brother. Now we began to wonder how this story really match up with Mr. Sunday's story. But we just carried on. We enjoyed the drama, and then the stage play opened into a palace where we saw the king. We saw the king. We've talked about the elders, the choir members, and then we saw the king. We saw the king and his daughter, Awelewa, and she came around to ask if they have actually gotten what they were looking for, and thought they were looking for a child of God, but we were not told why they needed a child of God, and the father said, well, they have not, and she left, and after a while we were shown the brother who was going through torment. The Lord there was tormenting him, and was trying to see whether at any point this brother would deny his faith. But that didn't happen. No, that did not happen. So the brother was brought to the king, and the king questioned him that did you say you're a child of God? You say, I'm a child of God. And are you willing to suffer for God? You say, yes, willing to suffer for God. And the torment continued, and then probably the king asked him now that what is his name? And he said he's Baba Tomiwa. And then the king was impressed with him, and now opened up to him and said, well, actually his daughter, however, needed to marry a child of God, and if he doesn't mind, he will want them to marry. And Baba Tomiwa ended up having a partial engagement with Awelewa, and that scene went out. And only for us to now return back to our earlier stage play. We now realize that Mr. Sunday's friend has used this story to encourage his friend, on why he should not give up, that there is something at the end of the tunnel. Mr. Sunday, cheerful and felt elated, decided he's going to carry on with the struggle at home or in the place of work, or the taunting and contentious behavior of his landlord. When Mr. Sunday resumed the office the next time, the boss approached him and apologized, for how she has not been on him and the way she have treated him. Though a deaconess, now she's given her life to Christ, and would decide to say she's sorry for the way she treated him, and open up to him how he had in himself certain promotions up to 4 or 3 and how she has kept them away from him. And she gave him the file. Mr. Sunday enjoyed those promotions, and his fortune turns around. And trying to remember the story. Now he got back home and then decided to pay off his rent. In fact, the landlord came in and without insulting him or embarrassing him, Mr. Sunday merely gave him his money and told him that, well, they have actually built their own accommodation and they'll be moving into it. And the landlord was embarrassed and he left. That's about the story. That's about our case study. So we are going to go on another break already, and then when we'll come back, we're going to see how we can go into MCR Investigation 1, actually the theory. We want to really know what it takes to investigate. Then probably we'll return to the story again and investigate. So thank you so much for holding on.